This is Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro. From the corporate office to the cab of a truck, they're here to inspire and empower women in all professions. So gear down, sit back, and enjoy.
Welcome. We're an award-winning show dedicated to empowering women in every profession through inspiring stories and expert insights. No topics off limits on our show. We power women on the road to success with expert and celebrity interviews and information you need. I'm Shelley.
And I'm Kathy.
Too often, women run into roadblocks as they navigate their careers. They can get frustrated when they transition into roles that don't completely align with their goals. They experience career barriers and sometimes doubt themselves. There are ways to overcome all of this and lead with confidence. Violeta Rangel is a fintech executive and career transformation coach who's passionate about women breaking through these barriers. She's guided countless professionals in reinventing their careers, overcoming imposter syndrome, and thriving in male-dominated industries. She's a highly sought-after keynote speaker. She helps women uncover the secrets of authentic leadership with her Triple R framework. We have Violeta on our show today, and we're eager to learn more. Welcome, Violeta. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. That's quite an introduction. Thank you. I really appreciate your words.
Oh,
Yes,
gosh.
welcome to the show. Woo!
Yeah,
Great.
We're looking forward to your insight, Violeta. And I'm thinking before we explore all of that, would you mind telling our listeners a bit about yourself and how you became such a dynamic coach?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, all the different experiences that I've lived in life, it's what have driven me here and why I do this work for women. I like starting introducing myself as a single mother because that is a key aspect of who I am and why I do the things that I do. And, I've been navigating the corporate life for almost, more than 20 years. In a male-dominated world, right? Usually the financial services environment and, the last 11 years in the fintech space. And the reason why I started doing this coaching a couple of years ago is because I learned a lot of these things the hard way, how to navigate transitions, how to elevate yourself, how to reinvent yourself in the corporate world. And after learning this through difficult ways, I decided to make it easier for other women out there because my mission is to make sure that more women remain in corporate, that they elevate themselves, that I put more women in positions of power. And with more money, of course, because with money we get more power. So that's me in a nutshell. I am from Mexico and I've been living in Canada, in Toronto, for the last 9 years.
Excellent. That's a great city, by the way.
Well, I'm Canadian too.
Yes.
I'm working in Alberta right now.
I was in Edmonton last week and it was so beautiful. The weather was amazing.
Yeah,
It was really nice.
it is. My daughter lives in Calgary, so I fly in and out. So love my fellow Canadians, love my fellow U.S. citizens too, because I live in the U.S. By the way, I just work here in Canada. I fly back and forth. I'm a gypsy.
You're all over the place, Kathy. So, Violeta, what would you say are the biggest challenges women face today in moving up in their careers? I know things have evolved, but I'm wondering what is still a barrier?
There's many barriers, and I think one of the biggest ones is mindset. And things have evolved. I think definitely things are different than when I started my career 20 years ago. But I think the mindset barrier is something that is very difficult to overcome because the rules that society imposed on us and in women in general tend to make us feel not ready for challenges and not ready for new things, not ready for risk taking. And that's where the imposter syndrome kicks in, right? That I do not like that term. That implies that there's something wrong with us, but it's not. There's nothing wrong with us. We're just reacting normally to a way that society has imposed us or imposed on us that we are not supposed to feel ready. We're not supposed to feel like we check all the boxes. So I think that is the biggest barrier and the barrier that prevents many women from taking risks, from moving to the next step, from asking for more, because we believe that we're not ready. And that's something that I work really, really hard with my clients, and to be fair, with myself all the time. That just to make that mindset shift of like, well, girl, you're ready and you want more, and you want it, and you're more qualified than other people out there. So that's what I think is the biggest barrier.
Do you think a lot of women sometimes are afraid to ask for, say, a raise or more money? The negotiations that men may do pretty naturally or don't have any kind of hesitation to saying, yes, this is what I want. Do you think that's part of the barrier? Women actually, they want to be too polite about it?
It is, and I think that is, that's why money mindset is a key pillar of my program as well, because I think women in particular, and women of color more than anything, have these money stories that have been passed on by us to us by our previous generations, money stories that we are not even aware of, and that prevents us from, like you said, asking for more money, negotiating. I was just having a conversation yesterday with a group of women, senior executives, and we were all discussing how just in the last 3 years is when we started negotiating our own salaries, and we asked for more, when our male peers have been doing it since day one. Right, since their first job, they negotiated a higher salary. But for us, I think it's difficult, and I do think it's because we don't feel like we are allowed to ask for more. And it comes back to the imposter syndrome, right? Like, who am I to ask for more when I should be grateful for this opportunity? So I do think that happens very, very often. And I think it's also women being afraid of money to a certain degree. I mean, everybody has their own different money stories based on how we grew up, the stories of our families and so on. But I do think that there's fear around money that is more common in women than in men.
Women like security.
Yes.
And I think men may be more prone to doing some risk taking. And I think women are also conditioned to be ladylike. Gee, that's not ladylike for me to ask for more. I should say, yes, please. Thank you. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a risk taking as well, right? Because if you ask for more, how are they going to perceive you, right? And then it comes kind of like the people pleasing aspect. And if you think about it, girls do better in school and everything because we are conditioned to be good girls, to be good at school, to be good at what we do. So it goes back to that people pleasing aspect that women tend to have more than men. So what are they going to think about me if I ask for more? They're going to think I'm ungrateful. They're going to think, this is not the right person. She's not doing it because of the passion of her work. She's just doing it for the money. So I think all of those things definitely play a role. And it is part of the mindset that we should be collectively working and changing.
I totally agree.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I have one question for you. Do you want to stop worrying about the IRS? If the answer is yes, then look no further. I've been around for years. I've helped countless people across the country, and my success rate speaks for itself. So now you know where to find good, honest help with your tax problems. What are you waiting for? If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or haven't filed in years, call me now at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com for a free consultation and get your life back.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
If you're enjoying this informative episode of Women Road Warriors, I wanted to mention Kathy and I explore all kinds of topics that will power you on the road to success. We feature a lot of expert interviews. Plus, we feature celebrities and women who've been trailblazers. Please check out our podcast at womenroadwarriors.com and click on our episodes page. We're also available wherever you listen to podcasts, on all the major podcast channels like Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon Music, Audible, you name it. Check us out and bookmark our podcast. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, YouTube, and other sites. And tell others about us. We want to help as many women as possible. If you've ever felt stuck in a role that didn't quite match your ambition, if you've wrestled with self-doubt, imposter syndrome, or the frustration of navigating male-dominated spaces, you're not alone. And today's guest knows exactly what that feels like. We're continuing our conversation with Violeta Rangel, a powerhouse fintech executive, career transformation coach, and single mom who spent more than 20 years climbing, surviving, and ultimately thriving in corporate America. Her journey didn't begin with confidence. She built it step by step after facing the very same challenges so many professional women encounter. Now she's on a mission to help women reinvent their careers, break through internal and external barriers, and step into authentic leadership using her acclaimed R framework. From overcoming imposter syndrome to cultivating a proactive money mindset that empowers women to negotiate stronger salary packages, Violeta is teaching women how to claim what they deserve without apology. She's a sought-after keynote speaker, a champion for women staying and succeeding in the corporate world, and we're thrilled to have her with us. Violeta? I see that you've got some practical strategies to build self-belief and take up space in competitive industries, and of course, navigating the challenges. Did you want to talk about some of the strategies? Because I think all of that, self-belief, certainly that it talks about the imposter syndrome and overcoming that, building the strength that women need to have.
Yeah. I have like you said at the beginning, this R framework, and it's very interesting because I think the self-belief comes to us as we get to know each other better. I mean ourselves better. When we get to know ourselves better, then we understand who we are, how we operate in the world, and what's the value and the impact that we bring to every aspect of our lives. Right? It doesn't necessarily have to be in an office or in a cubicle. So I think one of the very important things that we should work on is understanding who we are and have clarity about our mission and our vision, because we're very busy. We're always in this hamster wheel, working, taking care of our families and whatnot. We lose sight of who we are very easily. After 20 years working, you kind of look back and say, like, what am I doing? Like, what is this? Like, how does this happen? So I think that's the first aspect. And then when we go to the R framework that I mentioned, the 3 Rs are risk management, resourcefulness, and relationships. And the reason that I came up with this framework is because when I did my own clarity work, when I did my own self-assessment of who I am, how do I operate in this world, what is what defines me, what sets me apart from everybody else, is my experiences. And I looked into the difficult or pivotal moments in my life, and I noticed that these 3 Rs were the common thread, were the things that were getting me out of there. So, every time that I had to reinvent myself and start from scratch, which has been plenty of times, these 3 Rs have been there. And so the first one that I really, really talk to my clients about is risk management. So once you understand who you are and you have clarity about the things that are important to you and what is your mission and your vision, then you're going to be able to take more risks, but you still need to have a good risk management framework to understand the different variables to which you are exposed to whenever you make a change, whenever you make a transition. And that will help you take that step with more confidence, just without second guessing yourself.
Doing a self-assessment is kind of intimidating. I'm not sure everybody knows how to do that.
But you're right. But I think it's very important that we stop sometimes and just reflect on where we are, what's happening around us, what we like, what we don't like, what we want to remove, who's toxic, who's poisonous, who's infiltrating our space, and then just clearing it out. It takes that time for ourselves in order to recognize where we need to grow and what we don't need anymore. Because if you don't look back and see how far you've advanced, I mean, how do you know? And a lot of the times, I think that people that tend to pull us down or keep us back are the ones that are almost closest to us. And so you have to really be strong in your own belief and who you want to be, what your dreams and goals are, and then just take a look and take action.
I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is a very difficult thing to do. To be fair, sometimes the comment that I most often hear from my clients is, I really appreciate, having the time to dig into who I am and gaining that clarity. Because like you said, we never take that time. It's just really difficult to pause for a little bit and then do a self-assessment. I think it's also scary. I think we try to be busy and doing other stuff that don't require so much emotional and intense work.
You really have to be vulnerable and objective. Objectivity, that's kind of hard to do with yourself sometimes. But sitting down and doing an assessment makes absolute sense. And I do think because women are taught to be people pleasers, you're supposed to raise families and all of that and fix everything in that regard and look out for everybody else. We forget how to look out for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why having a coach is good. I mean, it has helped me significantly having not one coach, but I've worked with many coaches, phenomenal coaches, right? And I think it's that accountability and holding your hand throughout the process that had really helped me. So I think doing it on our own, it's doable, but it's harder, and the accountability aspect is also important.
Where do you think women have really made gains in the past 20 years? I think that they're getting more in the C-suite that they weren't maybe 20, even 30 years ago. So that's good. But where do they need to improve? Because I know that there are barriers to entry still.
There's still barriers to entry, but I think, women have made it to the C-suite. Women have made it to the board level, but not in the level or at the pace that we thought we were going to be by 2025, right? So we're still way behind. And there is this concept of the leaky pipeline. And the leaky pipeline really is women in middle management, which tends to be, women in middle age. What happens there is, you've been very successful so far. You've worked really hard. Your hard work has been recognized. But now then you're in this middle management level. You don't have the power yet to make decisions, but you have a lot of responsibility and you have a lot on your plate. And if you think about it, you also have, outside family responsibilities. You may be taking care of your family or your parents. You may be taking care of everybody around you. You may be going through perimenopause or menopause. Everything plays a role. And a lot of women ask themselves, what am I doing here? I'm not going anywhere. This is just more work, no recognition. I'm not getting to that level that I want to be anytime soon. They're just piling more work on me, and they leave, because if you think about it, nobody wants to stay under those conditions, right? So I think that is the very, very risky space in corporate. And it's a very isolating space, middle management, because you don't know how to move forward. The strategies that have helped you get there are not going to help you get to the C-suite. And we're not investing enough in advancing or teaching leadership skills to these women, because at the end of the day, they are very useful where they are because they're very good at what they do. So no, it's not in anybody's interest to advance them to the C-suite, right? So I think that is where we need to work more. And I think that's, getting into the workforce is not an issue. We have women entering the workforce just as we do with men, is elevating them and not losing them in that middle management level.
It's like they're getting stuck, and men don't get stuck. Well, you look at some CEOs, they're in their 40s. They're men, and they just naturally just kind of go to the top. What is the biggest, I don't know if it's a barrier, or what is the biggest hurdle that women have to overcome in that area? Because it is interesting that men just kind of do this trajectory, and women do, and then they level off and they plateau.
They plateau, they leave, right? Because then they don't want to keep grinding there because it's not
Yeah.
getting them anywhere.
Yeah.
I think one aspect that I mentioned from the Triple R framework is the relationships. So women are very good at making relationships and creating connections with other people. but women are not very good at leveraging those relationships and that network. And I think that's something that we should be more comfortable with, that men are naturally comfortable at. They're very comfortable at navigating their network and asking for help whenever they need it. And we know that, that network is going to help you advance faster than on your own.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I have one question for you. Do you want to stop worrying about the IRS? If the answer is yes, then look no further. I've been around for years. I've helped countless people across the country, and my success rate speaks for itself. So now you know where to find good, honest help with your tax problems. What are you waiting for? If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or haven't filed in years, call me now at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com for a free consultation and get your life back.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
We've been talking with Violeta Rangel, a fintech executive and career transformation coach whose passion comes from lived experience. As a single mom who spent more than 2 decades in corporate America, she knows the pressure, the politics, and the quiet self-doubt that can creep in when we're trying to climb. Violeta has helped countless women reclaim their confidence, step into leadership roles that fit their true goals, and push past the career barriers that often derail so many talented professionals. Her Triple R framework gives women a roadmap to reinvent their careers with clarity and courage. And one of her most powerful messages? Develop a proactive money mindset, because women should never be afraid to negotiate for the salary, respect, and opportunities they've earned. Also do risk management and understand your variables when you make a change. That helps you take that step without second-guessing yourself. If you've been struggling with alignment in your career or you're tired of feeling stuck or underestimated, this discussion's for you. You need to get aligned with your mission and your vision when it comes to your career. Violeta, in our previous segment, we were talking about the importance of networking. Are we not taught to do that growing up or something? I don't recall it ever being in school on how to properly network. That was a concept that I learned in my 20s.
I learned it in my 40s.
Okay, there you go.
I'm a late bloomer.
Well, I think it's probably, we're very good at building relationships genuinely and authentically being there for each other. Well, networking tends to be a little bit more transactional. So it could be that transactional aspect that makes us uncomfortable.
That's true. That makes sense that there's risk-taking involved. But it almost seems like men are taught or conditioned or something to do this naturally, and they don't find it intimidating. Whereas women are more likely maybe to be hesitant. And if you want to grab that brass ring, you can't be hesitant.
Yes. And I think that comes from everything that we do. We are hesitant and we are risk averse. And I think that's something that if we go back to the what we were discussing at the beginning, right? Self-confidence. Self-confidence is everything. And we know that there's a lot of research behind, how many women apply for a job. They only apply when they tick all the boxes, but men apply when they tick 3 out of 10 boxes, right? And that's self-confidence. That's all. That is all that we are missing. And I think that's something that if we use those little tools and skills to bump up our self-confidence, like getting to know ourselves better, understand what are our superpowers, what is our own framework, how we operate in the world, then we're more confident in the impact that we bring, and the knowledge and the skills that we have, and then we can navigate the world and the relationships and everything better. I do think that all goes back to self-confidence.
Okay. So that's something that we need to instill in our little girls too, growing up, because if it's natural, yeah. Because if it's not something that you grew up with, it's going to be harder to develop it, I would think.
Yes, yeah, and I think it's I was at my son's martial art test, and I saw a huge difference between the boys and the girls there doing the test, and the girls are um, looking down and holding their hands and like just more shy in general, right? So I think it starts at a very early age. This disparity in self confidence.
Mm. Do you think it's hormonal? Do you think testosterone plays a role in that somehow?
I never thought about it. It could be. It could be.
Yeah.
I thought it was more, how we as a society treat girls and boys differently. It could be both. I mean,
Mm.
I honestly would be very interesting to look into that testosterone research. It could be. It could be that they just feel more empowered, right?
Well, I remember little boys in elementary school. I always thought that they were stupid because they took a lot of risks and they'd hurt themselves and do it again. And 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 hurt themselves and do it again. And I just stand back and go, "What is wrong with you?" You know?
Yes. Yeah, I know. I see it today, right? My boy is 11 years old, so I see it all the time. And like I said, I see the difference between the girls in his orbit, right? So I think it's totally yeah. The risk taking is very different, for
Yes.
sure. Yeah. So it could be something that we were born with, or it could be something that it's imposed to us by society, or like just like the way we navigate this world. But it's a very interesting phenomenon. And I do think that is costing women their careers and is costing women money, because that's also why, women do not have the same salary, and the why the pay gap is still that big.
Well, there's statistics out there that women have a much smaller pension, much smaller nest egg, if you will, when they retire than men. Many are at risk not to have enough money throughout their retirement.
It is very difficult, because if you think about it, women tend to take maternity leaves. They tend to take time off to take care of their parents or whatnot, and all of
Mhm.
those years are actually counting towards your pension and
Yep.
counting towards you not having the same as your partner or your male peers, right? So that's there's a lot of aspects there that influence, because the pay gap is not just during your working years; it lasts forever, and that is a very difficult scenario for elders.
So, how can a woman navigate challenges and step into leadership positions with confidence? That whole sentence sounds intimidating,
Yes,
actually.
and I don't think we have a magic wand to tell women how to do it. But I think the way that I've done it, and the way that I do it with myself and with my clients, because I'm still there, I'm still in that hamster wheel myself, right? So um, it's really trying to bring back my values every day. And my values, I understand very well my values now after doing a lot of self discovery, but my values also evolve, right? And my mission and everything evolves. So it's kind of a constant work in progress that you have to do with yourself. And like I said, once I did some self discovery for myself, what I identified was the common thread of how I work through challenges and how I overcome difficulties. And that first made me very um, aware of all the difficult things that I've overcome, so that now I can look back and say, wow, I've done all of this. When we really never take the time to do that. And second, I understand now what were the things that I was doing during that time, right? What was my framework doing during those challenging times? And that's something that I keep bringing to the front of my mind every time I'm in a difficult situation, or in a challenging position where I need to, keep at it. So that's something that I try to work on with my clients and help them find that for themselves. And then the second aspect that I work with them is, now that you have very good clarity about who you are, what's your story, let's put your story out there. Nobody talks about themselves other than, I'm a lawyer, or, I'm a teacher, whatever. Like, that's just what we do for a living. I think there's way more of ourselves that we should be putting out there, because what sells is our story. It's not our resume or, our credentials. Um, so we work a lot on finding and fine tuning your story, and how to share it with the world. Of course, the parts that you're comfortable with and so on. Um, so that's my framework. And of course, the money stories. We try to work on our money stories because that's something that I am very clear on. That I don't only want to help them overcome challenges. I want to put more money in their pockets, and that comes from us.
Well, and certainly that's necessary. You have to have money to survive today. Yeah. And certainly lots of it because prices keep going up.
It's not just to survive. I feel like in this world that we, need to make changes and everything, we just need more money in the hands of women because otherwise we're going to be left behind and decisions are going to be made without us because we are not in a position of power because we know that with money comes power.
Well, they have done studies and the statistics prove it out. When there is a compromised financial basis with a family, with a mother and her children, the children suffer. I mean, it's a generational issue. So it just makes sense that women need to thrive because if they thrive, their families will thrive and future generations will.
That big ripple effect.
Yeah, and if you think about it, you're also more secure to take risks, right? To take a new position that is more risky and everything. But if you're just living paycheck by paycheck, you're not going to be looking for a new and exciting career or a new and exciting role because you're afraid. You're afraid of losing your money. So I do think that the financial stability is also critical for women to be a little bit riskier or taking more risks in their careers.
Financial insecurity can certainly erode somebody's confidence. They start really feeling like they aren't worthy. They feel like a failure. And those are all such negative thoughts that really compromise what we want to do.
Absolutely. I started sharing this that I am a single mother, and I became a single mother. Um, I by choice, but also by chance. I had worked really hard to build a career for myself in Amsterdam many years ago. I had the job of my dreams. Everything was amazing. But then I found myself in a relationship where I no longer felt safe and no longer felt good. And I had to, overnight quit my job, quit my, leave the city that I had worked really hard to build a life on, leave my relationship and start from scratch with nothing in my pockets. I had nothing. So I had to move across the world, back to Mexico where I could find some place to live and nothing in my pockets and trying to figure out how I'm going to give birth to my baby and like really messy situation and really difficult. And my career was the last thing on my worries, like I just needed to put money and I mean food on the plate, food on the table, and I needed to put a roof on our heads. So that experience for me showed me really how difficult it is to move in the world when you don't have financial security. Um, my career took a huge setback during that period of time because at that time, I could do anything. I just needed to put food on the table and I needed to figure out how to raise this child on my own. Um, I worked hard and I'm here now and it's a better outcome. But those initial years were really difficult and I'm sure that my pension and my career suffered a lot from that break that I had to take.
But you had to do it for survival. And so you had the potential to thrive as well as your child. That had to have been terrifying.
Yes, it was terrifying. It was really, really difficult. But you know what? I realized after looking back and all of this that that's where I was actually using my triple R framework. That's when this difficult situation was developing, I was running scenarios in my head. I was doing risk management in my head, and that's actually what helped me make decisions when fear was paralyzing. I was so afraid of taking any decision, as you could imagine. And of course, none of the scenarios that I had in front of me were the ones that I wanted. None of the options were the options that I actually wanted to take. But I had to analyze in which scenario am I less exposed. And I went with that. And I went with that with a, with its determination bigger than fear because I knew that I had done a proper risk assessment, and this was the best path for me. And even so, I knew that I was going to find myself homeless and without any money on the other side of things, but I would find freedom and safety for me and my child. And that would be better and more important for me than having a roof over my head.
I'm just quite shocked right now because you just put into words what my whole life was about. Like I come from a very abusive background, and I spent a lot of time escaping bad situations, but I never, not once until this very moment that you just said it, is that it was a risk assessment that I was continuously doing, because I was doing the exact same thing what you're just doing. Because I had my young daughter, I was in a very violent situation, and I was trying to figure out all these scenarios and which was the best one to take, but I never thought about it being as a risk assessment thing. So thank you, because now as I look back and I was really analyzing which steps are going to be the best. And wow, I just had a breakthrough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, wow.
And I think it's risk management is so important, and we're doing it all the time. We just don't think about it. So that's something that I want
Yeah.
the women that I work with to be more aware of, because we're actually taking these decisions all day, every day. So when it comes to major life-changing decisions, you got to be equally confident, because you have the skill in you to make this risk assessment, right? So that is why I started sharing my story for many years. I never shared this story. A lot of people that know me in the last 10 years, they have no clue about any of this. But I decided to start sharing it because I think it's empowering. I think it's empowering to learn from these things, and know that there is a better way to live, and more confidence in yourself.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I have one question for you. Do you want to stop worrying about the IRS? If the answer is yes, then look no further. I've been around for years. I've helped countless people across the country, and my success rate speaks for itself. So now you know where to find good, honest help with your tax problems. What are you waiting for? If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or haven't filed in years, call me now at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com for a free consultation and get your life back.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
No professional should ever feel pressured to dim their strengths to fit outdated norms. And our guest today, Violeta Rangel, is one of those women. She didn't just break through barriers. She lived them, struggled with them, and built a framework to help other women rise above them. Violeta is a fintech executive, career transformation coach, and in-demand keynote speaker who spent over 20 years navigating the corporate world as a single mom. She understands the frustration of landing in roles that don't align with your purpose, the sting of imposter syndrome, and the exhaustion of trying to prove yourself in environments where women are often underestimated. Now she's dedicated to flipping that script. Through her signature Triple R framework, she empowers women to redefine their goals, rebuild their confidence, and rise into authentic leadership. And she doesn't stop there. She has lots of valuable insight that she's been sharing with us. Violeta, in our last segment, we were talking about doing risk assessments. I think women, in terms of risk assessment, might be better, stronger in that than they really think. Because when you think about it, when you're raising children and so forth, you're always looking at risk. Children get themselves into trouble all the time. So you have to assess the risk ahead of time without being too overprotective. We're good at this. I mean, I think we're conditioned to do it biologically.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of research about women being more, I don't want to say risk averse. I want to say better at doing risk-informed decisions, or making risk-informed decisions. And you see it with, women managing money and portfolio managers and so on. They are actually really good at making money and taking less risks, or at least more risk-informed decisions in their investments than men. So yes, I think they're there is some grounds in saying that women are better at risk management than men, for sure.
So how can women pivot and upskill and transition into the roles that align with their goals? This is one of the topics that you'd mentioned. How do they do that?
Yes, and I think maybe we go back to the women that I work with are mostly in midlife because it's the women that I found are in more need of this support and this guidance. So once you have that self-assessment of yourself and you identify where are your values, you have to look at what is it that you want for your life in the next 10, 15 years. Where do you see yourself, right? That's going to be our guiding light. And then from there, we kind of break it down into smaller steps, like what do you need to do, in the next 5 years of your life to get there? What do you need to do in the next 6 months or 2 weeks or whatnot? And that's when things start to make it a little bit clearer because a lot of the decisions that we make are not necessarily aligned with our 10-year goal. So the first thing is to start aligning your next steps with your long-term goal, with where you want to be 10 to 15 years from now. And then the other thing is that once we do this self-assessment and we identify better who we are and what drives us, it's going to be very easy to find transferable skills because you don't necessarily need to be always stuck in the same career path that you were in before. And I think one of the main things that I enjoy about this work is that I help women see the possibilities that they never thought before. It's kind of like they were looking down at their desk and all of a sudden they're looking up and they see all of this, amazing blue sky, infinite possibilities. And that's, just opening your path for everything that you want. As long as you have very clear who you are, the impact that you bring to the world, the skills, your superpowers, as I said, and where you want to be 10 years from now, then the next step is going to be easier to decide.
Makes sense. So do you work with people remotely, Violeta?
Yes, mostly remotely. Most of my clients are in Toronto and Montreal because it's where I mostly navigate. But yeah, remotely. And it's like, as you said at the beginning, it's not an easy thing to do. So it's pretty intense and very personal. We get together, 3 times a month, and I'm always available for, to chat on WhatsApp or phone calls or whatever, because I think when we start doing this work, a lot of old and raw emotions that come up. So I like being there for them because it's a very intense work that we do.
What are your different programs? I'm seeing the VIP one-on-one career transformation program, the Power Hour. What are those about?
Yeah, so my main program is called the Change Program. It's very straightforward. You just want to change, and that's what we're here to do. So that program is a 4-month long program where we meet, like I said, 3 times a month. And then initially we have a very intense strategy session of 2 hours before we kick off the program so that we really get to know each other. And then we dig deeper into these stories and everything. We bring everything to light so that we can get working together. And during this 4-month program, we work on clarity, we work on crafting your story, and we work in storytelling techniques because we want to make sure that once you find your story, you're able to start sharing it, that you find the messaging that you want to share with the world, to start creating a personal brand for yourself as well, to make yourself visible, to put yourself out there, whether it's a blog or a podcast or being a speaker, whatever it is, but you need to start putting yourself out there to gain more confidence. And then the last pillar is the money mindset. That's I put it at the end because it's also very intense work that we cannot do in tandem with the clarity because it's intense mindset patterns that we need to transform.
Sure. You also have the Power Hour. It's a 1-hour consultation.
Yes, the Power Hour is where, if you don't want to commit for 4 months, we work in that 1 hour where we can focus on one area that you want out of these pillars that I mentioned. And, we can have as many hours as you want. But yeah, that's the offering that I have. And, here and there, I also offer sometimes workshops. So for instance, I think 2 weeks from now, I have a workshop coming up for personal branding, where I will give a little bit of techniques to get people started. And then I have a newsletter where I share some tips every week. And of course, on LinkedIn, I'm sharing stuff, I think, 2 or 3 times a week.
That's helpful. So where do people find you on the web?
So I'm always on LinkedIn. I'm a LinkedIn person because if you are in the corporate world, everybody's there. Under my name, Violeta Rangel. You can also find me on my website, that is everbloomgroup.ca. The name that Everbloom came to me because it's an opportunity for us to reinvent ourselves constantly. And just like flowers, we have that option to bloom constantly and be ever blooming. So my website is everbloomgroup.ca, and there you can find everything about the programs, like you mentioned, or you can contact me. But on LinkedIn, I'm there as well.
I love this. Do you have maybe a nugget that you could share with our listeners before we close so that they have some food for thought?
Yes, I think, the other day somebody asked me, what would you have said to yourself, 20 years ago? And I think the biggest thing that I've learned throughout this process is trust yourself. Trust yourself because your intuition is stronger than your fear. And trust yourself that you have a plan, but you're also good enough to pivot out of that plan. So I think for me, that's something that has stood out as I did this work on myself of self-discovery. My intuition has been stronger than my fear always, and I just need to listen to myself more.
Amen. Intuition has some tremendous insight that we don't always listen to.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Violeta. What is your website again, just in case people didn't write it down?
Everbloomgroup.ca.
Thank you for sharing your insight. This is inspirational.
Thank you so much. It was a great conversation.
It was. And you know what? I'm going to be thinking about this tonight at work, about how my risk management has affected me and how, not affected me, but how it impacted my life and my life choices, since I never looked at it before like that. Thank you so much.
Yes.
It's a different angle, and I think it's a good one. You'll find
It is. It's empowering is what it is.
Yes, it
It
is.
is. It is. Yeah. And you'll find more common threads as you start thinking about it from that lens.
So I'm really tickled pink. So
It imparts confidence. This is great. Thank you, Violeta. It's been an honor having you on the show.
Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this latest episode. And if you want to hear more episodes of Women Road Warriors or learn more about our show, be sure to check out womenroadwarriors.com. And please follow us on social media. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. On our website, we also have a selection of podcasts just for women. There are a series of podcasts from different podcasters. So if you're in the mood for women's podcasts, just click the Power Network tab on womenroadwarriors.com. You'll have a variety of shows to listen to anytime you want to. Podcasts made for women. Women Road Warriors is on all the major podcast channels like Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, YouTube, and others. Check us out. And please follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro. If you want to be a guest on the show or have a topic or feedback, email us at sjohnson@womenroadwarriors.com.